everyone, welcome back to Great Sports Debates, and today we have our first installment, the Week 2 Power Rankings. And this is something we're going to try to update every week. You let me know if this is something that you want on Monday, or if this is something we should wait till after the Monday night game to get that out fresh Tuesday. But it's definitely something I plan to do every week. So let's jump right into it. At number 32, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, it was Dobbs instead of Tune for Arizona at quarterback, but Arizona still needs to show more on offense. They definitely didn't have the worst week one, but I got to see more before I move them out of the bottom spot. I'm not an Arizona believer. I don't expect the offense to be too good. We'll see next week how they do. Moving on to number 31, we got the Chicago Bears. Now, I try not to take too much from the preseason because most of the stuff doesn't matter. But, I edged them up a little bit from the bottom. Just looking at, hey man, they got this guy Moore, him and Fields are both electric. They seem to have a little bit of chemistry. But then when it comes to the real games, I got reminded about reality. This team's offensive line gives them no time, and the defense still isn't looking great. I'm sorry, I can't see Chicago any higher than 31 until they prove me otherwise. Moving on to number 30, this might be too low for the Houston Texans, but they got a rookie quarterback, and he made a few mistakes. The team doesn't have really the greatest roster in the world. I know they had some pieces like Will Anderson, but they're going to need a lot to go right for them to do well this year. 30's where I have them for right now. At 29, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Richardson looked better than I honestly expected week one, and they still don't have Taylor. So this team could continue to move up. Right now we got them at 28, but especially with the division they're in, they could definitely pick up a few wins. At 28, we have the Denver Broncos. Now, Denver is a team that disappointed me. They're a team that cost me one of my predictions this week. Obviously, this, as I said, this isn't a game I would bet on because I don't trust Denver, but I did expect them to be better than they were week one. The defense still looks pretty good, but still not seeing the expected improvements on offense. And they definitely could use a new kicker too. Denver just seems to continue to find ways to not win games. And they don't have young talent coming in based on everything they gave up for Russell Wilson. Probably a move they didn't need to make. At number 27, we have the Carolina Panthers. Carolina's in the same boat as some of these other teams. They got a rookie QB. There's going to be some mistakes to be made. I did think that they would be a little bit better, and they were, obviously better than 27 last year. But between having the rookie QB and the defense that I expected to be really good, maybe it was who they were playing, but the run defense looked terrible. So we have the Panthers at 27 for now, but I could definitely see them moving up from there. At 26, we got the New York Giants. Now, this might be too low for the Giants, but they couldn't do anything in week one. And as I said during my week one picks, they were a team that overachieved last year that I did not have confidence in. They've overpaid at quarterback, and I called it as my top lock. Dallas minus anything under 7 is gold. So that's one we bet on ourselves. That's one we gave to you. That's one I mentioned to somebody in the comments is, hey, if you're only going to bet on a couple of games, this is one of them. So I know some people have the Giants winning 10-9 games, whatever. I think they're going to be a sub-500 team, probably close to that 7-8 range. I got them at 26. They look really bad week 1. Moving on, number 25, we got the Tennessee Titans. Now, Henry's back, and he's looking great, as he always is. Just a really underrated player. But what about everything else on offense? The quarterback threw 3 picks. They ended their season last year terribly, just losing a whole bunch of games in a row. And while they are in a weak division, there is one team that's pretty good in that division now. I can't see them doing anything. They might rise from 25, but I can't see them in the playoffs or anything like that. All right, folks, at 24, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I don't want to overreact to one game. The same way some people overreacted the other way, getting all excited about their starters beating up on backups in the preseason. But, if we're being honest, no team looked worse than the Steelers did week 1. I mean, the offense couldn't block. The only time they even moved the ball is when they were in a hurry-up offense and getting the ball out quick. And on the other side of the ball, they made San Francisco look like an all-time great offense. And Purdy looked brilliant. Again, I'm lower on Pittsburgh than most. I know. I could definitely see them bouncing up from this spot at 24, but that's where we have them right now. At 23, we got the Washington Commanders. I almost said Redskins there. The defense doesn't dominate the way they should. This team has so many good players on the defensive line, but they just do not put it together consistently. This is a team that's going to need to protect the football and limit their mistakes, because they're just limited on offense and they're not dominating the way that they should on defense. And I could see a wide range of finishes from Washington, but none of them are going to be anything to write home about. At 22, I got the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this might be too high. I mean, I feel like it's too high. But the Raiders are a team I keep expecting to lose. But, Jimmy G made enough plays. He made the plays when he needed to win that game. Granted, it was against Denver. But they're 1-0 right now. We'll see what they do next week. At 21, I got the New Orleans Saints. This is a team I'm disappointed in. This is a team that made me look bad again. I did pick them to win, but they only won by 1 point. I expected more from Carr on this team. They're just going to have to prove it. Like I said, just the first game, offense was not what I expected. At number 20, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I know some people are going to say, hey, this team's 1-0. They won their division last year. Well, they won one of 2 really bad divisions in football. And I need to see more before I can believe in a repeat of winning the division with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback. This guy can look good one week and get pressured the next week and do some crazy stuff. So 20 is the spot for right now. At 19, I got the New England Patriots. Now, I'm going to be honest, full disclosure here. I really did not get to see too much of their game against Philadelphia. I was score checking. I saw some highlights. I expected Philly to win. I expected Philly to cover, and they did. So this spot could change. This is where I have them for right now. At 18, I got the Seattle Seahawks. If you looked at the week 1 picks, I did pick the Rams here. I didn't go quite as far to say to bet them the money line. I like getting the 5.5 points there, but I did feel like this was a game they could win. From the bits I did see, Seattle's offensive line looked like they gave Geno plenty of time. So the Rams are a team I expect to be better this year. I'm not going to drop Seattle down too much, off of one game. And from what I saw, they look like they have the pieces to be kind of in that same spot as they were last year. challenging for a playoff spot. They didn't finish too strong down the stretch last year, so keep that in mind for whatever that's worth. At 17, I got the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team that can definitely run the football, but my question the whole time is that enough to get into the top half of football teams? They keep outperforming my expectations, so we're going to stand by and watch, and if they keep winning, I'm going to have to keep pushing them up the rankings. All right, folks, moving on. At 16, we got the Minnesota Vikings. As bad as losing to Tampa Bay is, and I'm really disappointed because, I was up in the air if Minnesota would cover by 6.5. They didn't even win the game. So I'm definitely disappointed with Minnesota's Week 1 performance. I'm disappointed with how they ended the year last year. But I really can't drop them any lower than 16 yet. I mean, this is a team that won 13 games last year. This is a team where anytime they're in trouble, Kirk Cousins can just throw it in the vicinity of Jefferson, and more times than not, he's going to make a play on that ball. All right, at 15, I got the LA Rams. I already know a bunch of people are like, whoa, dude, this team won 5 games last year. I know. They had a bunch of injuries, and then the team kind of fell apart after that. They are on the older side, but important note, it's Matt Stafford, not Cooper Kupp, that steers the ship on this team. If they can give Stafford time to throw the ball, he's going to do well on the offensive side more times than not. This is a guy that can catch fire and shred defenses. He's a better quarterback than most people give him credit for. He is up in age. He's had a lot of injuries. And he doesn't have a lot of mobility. But if he gets time, they could be a decent team. They could surprise some people this year. At 14, moving into the upper half now, we got the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland's defense looked great. They ran the ball well. And if we were just basing this off Week 1, they'd definitely be a whole lot higher. But, we are going to keep in mind it's one game. It was a bad weather game. And let's see if they can make a repeat performance out of it. I, for one, still have the big concern with Deshaun Watson. He's going to have to be better than he was last year if they're going to be a playoff team. I don't think that it's in the realm of possibility at this point that he gets back to what he was with Houston before. But he's going to have to be somewhere in between there for the Browns to do anything in the later months in the playoff season, if they wind up even getting into that conversation. But we're having the conversation. All right, moving on. 13, we got the Chargers. The Chargers got a lot of offense. They got so many weapons. In fact, I had this debate with a couple of people I was talking to before we were picking the game, some back and forth. Some people were surprised that my one underdog pick was Miami. And I said, hey, don't even worry about the points. Take the money line. I like Miami as a better team straight up. And Miami did beat them, but, it was close as expected. There was a lot of lead changes. The Chargers just got to figure out something on defense before they're real contenders. But I got them at 13 for now, and they're always going to be in every game with that offense that they have. All right, at 12, we got the New York Jets. Now, with this version of the power rankings, I'm actually doing it before the Monday night game. So we haven't seen the Jets play real football yet. But this is the spot I have them holding for right now. And part of this is just based on their defense was just super impressive last year. I feel like the game is won on the lines. So, I couldn't really put them any higher, even with the additions they made, until I see their offensive line perform well. Their defensive line is insane. I mean, Quinnen Williams, I just pay him whatever he wants. I mean, he's a game wrecker. And then, Sauce, first year, he's the best cornerback in the league. The defense is lights out. Rodgers looked like he had a good connection going with some of the wide receivers. So the Jets could outperform this spot, but they're going to have to show it. They're going to have to prove it. All right. Moving into the upper positions now. At number 11, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, this is a team that helped us all win a bunch of money last year because Trevor Lawrence turned the corner mid-season and the lines didn't catch up super quick. So there was a lot of money to be made last year as Jacksonville went on their run. And this was the other game that we mentioned in the comments that was an absolute lock. I said, Jacksonville, whether it's -3.5 or 4, they're going to cover that. And they did. Trevor, if he takes it to another level, we'll see. Maybe they can even outperform what they did last year. But right now, I think they're in that same category as possibility to get into the playoffs, possibility to win a game. We'll see how they continue to progress. But the offense already looks really good. At 10, this might be an overreaction. I got the Green Bay Packers, but they really just had a brilliant performance week 1. And I know it was against Chicago, but the offensive line looked great. Obviously, let's see it again against better competition. I might regret sticking them quite this high at this point, but they seem to be clicking on all cylinders. All right, at 9, this was like a really tough one. I got the Cincinnati Bengals. Every time I seem to watch them, I watched them early last year. I was just like, man, I'm just not really impressed by this team. And then every year they're like in competition for like the AFC Championship or going to the Super Bowl one year. But I watched a lot of this game. They just looked terrible. Joe Burrow threw a lot of terrible passes. I know it was raining and he's got small hands and whatever else. But yeah, it was just a really bad week 1 performance. But they always seem to bounce back after slow Septembers. Maybe Cincinnati considers playing this guy in the preseason because he doesn't seem to be ready to go week 1, week 2. So we'll keep that in mind for next week's games. Okay, at 8, don't call me a homer. I'm a big Lions fan. This is one of 2 teams we picked for over their win total. They did it last year, and we got paid over for that, so that was the underdog side. I think they're definitely going to win double-digit games this year. They did slay the mighty Kansas City Chiefs the first week, but if I'm being honest, they didn't look as good on offense as expected. St. Brown could really use a deep threat opposite of him. It's a shame that Jameson's going to miss another 5 games, and with Shark gone out of town right now, it's going to be up to guys like the speedster Khalif Raymond or Josh Reynolds to step up and kind of help that void. Between that and the fact that I think Detroit's going to run the ball more, I don't expect them to have the crazy offensive numbers that they did last year. Plus, I expect the defense to be better so they're not in positions where they have to be, throwing the ball to catch up. At 7, it's the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, I know it was Houston that they killed, but they're looking good, and they looked good last year too when Lamar played. I know some people aren't super high on Jackson. I know it doesn't look like he's always the greatest passer in the world, but just look at the points per game differential when he plays and when he doesn't. And then, of course, as you always just expect, no matter who's on this team, it just seems like the defense always is able to get pressure. At 6, it's the Miami Dolphins. Maybe a little bit too high, but, this is one team I've just been telling people over and over and over again that this is the one weird thing. Like, a lot of people watched a lot of football last year. Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody talk about how good Miami was when Tua was in this offense. And he basically did the same thing that he was doing a lot of last year, where, you know, he'll hit another 200 plus yard game. He's throwing for, you know, high 400 yards, and they wound up winning the shootout. I mean, as well as Tua plays, if he has time and the speed all around him and the weapons he has, this is going to be an interesting team if they can stay healthy. I'm really curious to how good this team can be. Now that we're into the top 5, these are all teams that I think could be contenders. These are all the teams that can flip around. These are the teams that I would consider serious Super Bowl contenders, at least for right now. And that 5 is Buffalo. Haven't played a game yet. Some people are writing them off, not picking them after everyone was over picking them last year. They were a team that we picked last year on the win totals. I didn't touch it this year, but it's not because I don't have confidence in Buffalo. It's just that they're in a super loaded division. Great offense, great defense. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if this team was in the Super Bowl. Buffalo is a really good team. At 4, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I know they didn't look good Thursday, but as we all know, they were missing a few key players. And I'm not dropping them too far based off of one loss. I mean, it happens. As good as they've been every year, you know, they still have, you know, 3, 4, even 5 losses each year, and they're still consistently one of the best teams. That was just a tough matchup against a tough Detroit team without, you know, their probably top offensive threat, top defensive threat, and a lot of things not really going well for them. At 3, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. This is another team that I didn't really get to see a whole lot of their game. Really highlights for the most part, few score checks. They lost some players from last year's roster that I don't think is being considered as important as I feel it might be. But, I mean, they had the best roster last year. They got off to a good start. They beat a good team. They covered. 3 is a good spot for now. We'll see if they can keep in that range. At 2 is the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys had a dominant outing, and it was another best beat from week 1 that we discussed earlier. Really, the only weakness on this team is Dak. I'm not a huge Dak fan, but I mean, he's got the keys to a great offense as well as probably the best defense in the league that's going to give him a ton of opportunities. Yeah, I could see Dallas winning the NFC East. I could see them winning 13, 14 games. They're going to be a tough team to beat. They seem to find a way to mess it up in the playoffs every year. But this is going to be a tough team, tough one to lose. And like I said, they look great week 1. And in the top spot, we expected San Francisco to be a Tier 1 team if Purdy looked good again, and he looked great. And the whole team in every phase, from running the ball to throwing the ball to lights-out defense that was getting pressure every single play. San Francisco is one of those 4 teams we told you to bet, and they all won. So we're riding high with San Francisco. And again, this is a team I'm probably higher on than most. But they're just great everywhere. And with Bosa back and in the lineup, it's hard to say that there's another team I expect to do better than San Francisco. But that's all I got for the power rankings. Let me know in the comment section who's too high, who's too low, and why. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.